Hello, it's Women Rise
Hello.
podcast, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Janine, how are you doing?
I am great, Sara. So excited for tonight. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited as well. I think this is going to be a really powerful conversation. I think people are going to get some amazing insights. Yet again, another inspiring, empowering woman as our guest. So, Janine, take us away. Who have we got this evening?
Ooh, so excited. So let's get into it. Dr. Mandy Zimmermann, who is a catalyst for transformative leadership with over 2 decades of global experience in research, manufacturing, and executive coaching. Holding a Ph.D. in process engineering, she combines scientific care with deep leadership, expertise in emotional intelligence, and of course, global dynamics. I mean, she's fantastic. Just that is
Amazing.
fantastic. But hold on, there's more. As a PCC Certified Coach endorsed by International Coaching Federation, Mandy empowers leaders in multinational corporations, fostering inclusive and effective workshop cultures. She has founded 2 successful coaching businesses and is famous for her innovative solutions and complex global business challenges. As an advisory board member of the G100 UAE, oh my gosh, come on, people. She is committed to enhancing leadership and creating opportunities for women in business worldwide, driving both personal and organizational growth and making a positive global impact. People, please put your hands together for Mandy Zimmermann.
Woo! Wow! Thank you so much. What a welcome. I'm always like when people are introducing me, it's like, who is that woman?
Well, it is an amazing bio. My goodness me. Um,
Indeed.
Yeah, so obviously the topic today is chain reactions, how one thing leads to another and how you can end up in one place when you started somewhere so completely different. So, Mandy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Okay, well, thank you so much for introducing me. And what chain reactions, sometimes when we're not control them, they can lead somewhere where we didn't expect it, but we also can make them controllable, right? Well, taking you through my journey. As you mentioned before, I have a technical background. Actually, now I'm working in the people business. I'm working with leaders. I'm working with women leaders, but also with other leaders, mainly with engineering leaders or leaders with a technical background themselves. And I started my career very different. I started my career in chemistry, actually, and this is, I think, how we came up with the topic chain reactions today, because they happen in chemistry. They happen in real life as well. So I studied chemistry and I was working in the manufacturing industry for quite some time. And then there was a point where I wanted to do a PhD. And so I did, but I didn't do it in chemistry. I did do it in engineering because things happen and there was the opportunity. So I took the opportunity to make that happen. And while I was working with chemists and with engineers at the same time, I already felt that there's something that I'm doing different from others. So chemists and engineers, you might know it, Sara, they don't talk to each other. they they talk, but they don't understand
Engineers
each other.
generally don't talk to anyone, to be honest. So.
Well, that's another thing. So I found myself translating between chemists and between engineers and helping people to
Mm.
understand each other. So I already, even though I had a very technical background, I was finding myself working a lot with people. And then when I had my first leadership position after getting my PhD, of course, people were most important. And unlike other chemical and engineering leaders in those positions, especially men in the German very structured serious environment, I was not so deep into the chemistry. Back then it was a chemical laboratory at this time. I was way more into developing the team that I had, and also connecting the team with other projects that we had. Back then I was in Germany, other projects that we had in China, that we had in the US, and that we had in Chile. So finding myself more being a coordinator of projects, not so much a manager, but a coordinator of projects and people. And this is how I grew out of the chemical and engineering area. And I found myself then really more into the people business, even though I was still in my job. And while I was doing this, I saw many misunderstandings happening between the different cultures, between the different brains of the different people. So there were the engineers, the chemists, there were the marketing people, there were the clients, there were the salespeople, there were the quality people, everyone talking, but no one really got together. So I found myself also there in the translation and in the coordination of everyone together. Unfortunately, I also saw a lot of bad leadership happening, and that is why I finally decided that I do not longer want to watch that, and I want to change something here, and I want to make an impact. So I stepped out of my former role, and I stepped into the coaching role. That was 5 years ago, and now I'm helping those leaders to become better leaders, so that their teams are having a better experience at work as well. So that's my short or long journey, which is a little bit different from a normal chemical way.
Amazing. So even though, obviously you have a very mathematical, scientific brain, you're able to handle those types of problems. It sounds like you were a natural people person anyway, that you were naturally able, people kept asking you to come and translate, as in not necessarily languages, but just to help them communicate better. It seems like it was a very natural transition then for you. It doesn't actually seem like it was that big a leap when you made the decision. It's like it seemed logical.
Absolutely. Funny enough, though, I always had to study very hard, and I always had to work very hard when it came to the chemical part and to the engineering part, even though I was good at it. But I felt like I need to put so much work in it, more than anyone else. But the people side was very natural to me. So we know in the coaching business as well that sometimes when people think that is easy, they don't think that this is something you can work on, because that's like who's going to pay you for this. And then I found out, well, actually it's not normal. It's not that everyone has that talent and that everyone has those skills. So to me they came natural, and it's way easier for me to work with people than to work in the engineering field or in the chemical field, though I do understand everything from my background. But the people part is the natural part.
So you mentioned that you worked in Chile.
Yes.
So were you actually based out there? So the company was had an office out there, or would have a manufacturing facility out there, was it?
Yes.
So I don't know anything about Chile. So in terms of the culture, was this again sort of something unusual for a woman to be in your position?
Oh yeah. So Chile is still, I think back then, that's a few years ago. I heard numbers that women in leadership or women in the workplace in general were only 8%. And in our company, it was actually 16%. So it was double the number of women than usually in Chile, but it's still a very small number. I think now it's higher. So I see also a lot of things going on and happening there. When I look at my old colleagues on LinkedIn, so they have women events and initiatives. But back then it was not very common for a woman to be in a higher position, for a woman to be in a technical position. So more than in Germany, where I was already, I think, I was the only woman in my level in the company in Germany, or in the site in Germany at least. But in Chile, that was a totally different thing, because I think I was the first one.
Oh, wow.
And that was not always understood, and not always, could people handle that very well, because they really didn't know how to do this. And, sometimes men feel a little bit intimidated when there's a woman having the same level of position as themselves, because they really don't know how to manage this. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's a very uncommon thing. But I think they're going in the right direction there as well.
That is amazing. 8% versus 16%, and probably higher now, which is really great to hear. Now, emotional intelligence and obviously intercultural leadership. That's really central of your coaching philosophy. So how do you use these elements to actually contribute to creating a healthy workplace in cultures? How do you please explain?
Well, I think both come a lot with curiosity. So if you are very, very curious, you already can train your emotional intelligence, even though you don't have it naturally. So not being very emotional intelligence is not a good is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. You just don't have that skill, and you can learn it. You don't have it naturally, and you can still learn it. It's looking different than, but it is possible. And how you can start to learn it is being very, very curious about just everything that's going on around yourself. So chemists and engineers have that curiosity by nature, actually, but they have it in the wrong field, or not in the wrong, but in another field. So they have it more in the technical, scientific area, and they can train to shift that also into the people side and being very curious about why is it the way it is right now, why is that, what's behind, what's the intention of the person, where is that person coming from, what's different between us. And there we are in the intercultural field as well, right? It's from human to human, but if you cross borders, it's even more exciting, because there we sometimes find like really, really big differences. And the first probably natural response, if you find something very different, is like, oh no, that's bad. It's bad, or it's weird, or it's strange. But if you are really, really curious about this, you start gonna ask yourself, why is it the way it is? What is behind this? And I found myself, actually, I have to admit this, when I moved to Chile, and I was sometimes very frustrated about the processes there, especially the different bureaucracy. It's very similar, difficult, like in Germany. It's just, for me, it didn't make sense. At least for me, the German bureaucracy makes sense, even though I don't like it. And I was wondering sometimes, like, how is this even possible? Like, how can people get along here? And then I was like, wait a second. I'm I'm the different one, because everyone gets along. This country is working. It's it's a functioning country. Everyone gets along in this country. It's me who thinks something different. So when you start to notice that, because you're also not wrong. It's not me. I wasn't wrong. I was just different. So when you start to notice there are differences and there's reasons behind it, and everyone has a valid reason, and no one is bad or good or wrong or right, then you start to become really, really curious. And that helps in a cultural understanding, and that helps in building that emotional intelligence.
I love that.
So what about in Dubai, though? Because obviously, if you go to a country like Chile, predominantly, obviously, you're working with Chileans. So you are the person, coming in. Whereas Dubai, everyone's coming in, pretty much. You will have, obviously, a certain number of Emiratis who you're obviously dealing with in the company as well. But the majority of people probably will be expats coming from multiple. I mean, I don't know how many different nationalities are here. I think in
Everywhere.
my son's
200,
school
I
is like
think.
150 nationalities in one school, and it's only a small school. So how do you? Where's your sort of reference point? Where's your starting point then for the corporate culture? Where is that coming from?
Hmm. I think it's especially here, it's very, very important to help people understand that they have to look into this as well, because people here say, oh, we are used to this. We work forever with so many nationalities. We know how to do this. But that's a blind spot as well, because just because there are so many nationalities doesn't know that you know how to handle it. And you think and you assume everything is okay. And then you get upset and you don't even know why. If I get upset in Chile, I know, okay, we are very different. If I get upset here, I might, it's easy to put it on the person rather than there might be a cultural difference, because we don't see it anymore, because we have that all the time. But it's still happening. And even though people are more open and they're more used to adjusting and adapting to one another, deep in their core, they still have their values and their habits that they learned in their own countries. So even though people tell me, oh, you're not so typical German, and I'm very happy about that, but I am. So there's still deep inside there are
You're
things
flexible.
um,
You're a
coming
flexible
through.
typical German.
Yes, but I think when I really get stressed, and that's what's happening, right? When people get stressed, they fall back into
Mhm.
their old habits and what they have been learning long, long, long time ago, and that's usually where they're coming from, unless they grew up in another country already. So helping them understand that it is always necessary, not only when you are an expat in another country, which is then only nationals, but also when you are in a very intercultural environment, you still have to watch out for not being biased and not judging, but really getting very, very curious. And only and in company culture is the same. When you get curious to understand what is it that people need, because Germans need a different leadership than let me say Indians, for example, so or Chileans or Americans. So everyone needs a different or knows a different style of leadership. And just because we might get along at dinner, it doesn't mean that we get along at work, because we are used different things, and you really have to start getting curious in this direction as well. So curiosity is key for really just everything.
So true. So true. It's almost as if you have to do an assessment before you can actually do anything, to get to know people and how they think and where they're from. It makes a big difference. Now, Mandy, you founded 2 successful coaching businesses and worked obviously on international projects. Can you share with us some practical challenges through these projects and how you actually navigated your way through it and guided your clients into the right direction? I'm sure you've got plenty stories to share.
So yeah, practical challenges is it's very unfortunate that companies look for okay, let's do something here. They think they're doing something for their people, but actually they only checking boxes, and that still is happening, and that still is hurting me if I am in the situation. And I'm very happy if people or if managers and leaders understand that there is a way to start, and that there's a way where you should maybe not start. Many companies, and that was one of the big projects that I was having started like 3 years ago, was senior leadership said we need we need a big program. We need a program for all our low level and mid level leaders. We want leadership foundation, and we want them all to become good leaders. So that was an amazing program, and it was actually a program for 2 years. So that was making me happy. However, I suggested to start at the top, but top leadership didn't have time. So that is the major challenge, I would say, that you encounter when you want to work and helping people and organizations to develop whatever they have to develop. If it doesn't come from the top, it's very difficult to reach the people in the mid-level. Yeah, so that is probably the main challenge that I would say. While we were rolling out this program, I was then always, because I was coaching 50 engineers in this organization during the program, so I was gathering a lot of information, and I was able to give some reports, some anonymous reports from everything that I heard, and bring it to senior leadership and say, hey, there is a gap in communication, there's a gap in alignment, people miss expectation setting and goal setting. So at least from there I could show, so we still could do something, of course, but from there I could show senior leadership, please look at how you can live what you want others to do.
And how did
Yeah,
they respond then? Like, did they participate then? Did you manage to get them into the program? Kicking and
In this
screaming?
particular case, it was very difficult, I have to say. In other companies, it was easier. In other companies, we managed to start at the top and really bring it from the top to the next levels. So that's the way I would love to see it, and that's the way I think is easiest. Also because it's convincing. If our leaders went through it, and we see changes in the leaders, and we see the leaders are willing, we are going to do it as well, and we are going to be happy to learn something. In this particular case, unfortunately, it was still very difficult to get them all together on the at one table. So yeah, that remained a challenge.
Yeah, I think it's don't just do the checkbox thing. It's actually being involved. I think, well, that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, it's the buy-in, isn't it? It's like if the leaders are not,
Yeah.
if they don't appear to be buying into it, then it's very hard for someone who's, even if they want it, lower down, to actually feel that confidence then, in what's being offered. And if they make the changes, is that going to be acknowledged? I mean, how do you generally measure your success? Because obviously these are considered soft skills, even though they're actually very hard to define sometimes and very hard to quantify. So I'm just curious, how do you measure your success, or how does a company decide, yes, that's worked, or actually, we need more?
Yeah, soft skills are not always easy to quantify. Usually they're very difficult to quantify. Sometimes it's possible. Usually it's a qualification. There are several assessment tools out there that are established, that are validated, that you can use. And you might want to enroll an assessment before you start, and the same assessment afterwards, and you can see how it changed. Those assessments can be self-assessments. There you always have to be a little bit careful. Usually I love to have feedback from others. So it can be written feedback, but it can also come through those assessments. So then we're talking about 360 assessments. And if you have, for example, there's also team assessments. The team is measuring the trust in the team. So the trust in the team is coming through rating of all team members and through rating from outside of the team, how people see that team working together, and how that people see the respect in this team, the trust in this team, the camaraderie in this team, or decision-making, problem-solving, those medium hard soft skills. So those are assessed, and then you get a certain number from 1 to 10, 1 to 9 in this specific case. And you see, okay, we started at a 4, and then we're working through coaching, through facilitation, through team coaching, or sometimes it's a simple training, and then usually training works best when you also do some coaching and some support throughout the journey. So they learn on what is actually necessary in order to change that. Important is also to understand why do we do this in the first place. So why is it important? What's in it for me as a person? What's in it for us as a team? What's in it for the company? And then it needs time. Sometimes you can change things in just 6 sessions. Sometimes you need half a year, you need 12, 20, I don't know how many sessions, or you need a few training sessions in between. And then you do this assessment again. And then usually you see 20, 30% increase of this particular skill that you were looking at and that you were working on. And again, that's usually subjective from 360, but it is at least a measurement that if you ask the same people, you get quite some good measurement in this.
And it must be as well it must have an impact on the bottom line as well in terms of their profits, because if people are happier, they tend to have less turnover, less absenteeism.
They're more
they're more
invested.
inclined. They're more invested, more inclined to go above and beyond maybe what their role generally is. So they must see a return on investment from that side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to explain to them how what they see here on the assessment side, how this feeds into their business goals. And usually when you set up a program, or when you go into a coaching engagement, you want to have from the stakeholders at the beginning, what is the goal? Like what is the business goals, and what is the goal of the manager for their team member, for example, if they send a team member to coaching, so that you know what you're working towards. So then they can have harder measurements because they have KPIs. So their business goals are KPIs. The people sometimes have personal KPIs, and that is something you can measure. So I'm not working on their KPIs, but I'm working on what is needed for them to reach this KPI. So by us working together, they can measure their KPIs. That's another way in how to verify. Sometimes still very difficult to understand by business leaders, but I think we're going to get there.
That's all that matters, is moving forward. I think that's the main thing, is not stopping. So this is really fantastic. As an advisory board member of the G100 UAE Oneness and Wisdom Wing, can you tell us more about this? And of course, obviously, the initiatives that you are involved in, I'm sure there's quite a few. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our listeners too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a new initiative here in the UAE. It's a global initiative. The G100 is a global organization, nonprofit organization. And they are advocating, or we all together are advocating. It started with equality for women, or equality in general. And there are different wings. So it's called G100 because we have 100 different wings. Our wing is the Oneness and Wisdom wing. Then there's a technology wing, the human resources wing, the leadership development wing. So there's many wings. And every wing has 100 country leads. And every country has 100 members at least. So it adds up to 1 million of women leaders who are advocating for gender equality and equality in general. We do work together with.
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is why I'm part of it.
I'd never heard of this. So where did it start from? Which country was this actually like based in? Is it here or?
If I'm not mistaken, it started. I'm not sure if it started in India, but the global chair of the G100 is coming from India. It might have been started in India, and then spread throughout the globe. And the oneness and wisdom, as the name said, right? We are not only having women members, by the way, we are also having male members, because we see oneness and equality as really oneness. And the wisdom part is like, what can we learn from everyone? How there's the curiosity. So how can we learn from each other? What can we learn from men in our membership group about equality as well? What can men learn from women about equality? So I think when we talk about equality, sometimes in organizations you only address the women. So I was talking to an organization that was doing something for women. That there's all those national days and international days in a year, throughout the year, and let's do something for women, which is great. However, only for women, that's still not integration, right? So you have to work with the men as well, especially when you're working in a men's world. Like me, for example, being in Chile, being 16% actually, at least in our organization, but being only a part of the 16%, if we only do something for those 16%, that's not going to work very well, because we have to help the other, 84% to understand why is it important, why are we going to do this anyway, what is so special about this difference, because they are way more, they have to understand it as well. So our wing has actually is a mix. I admit we are more women still than men, but we do have men in our group as well. And then we have Denim Partners, which are male, which is a male organization, is like the partnering organization to the G100, and they are partnering with the country chairs and the country chairs, and supporting us as well in advocating equality.
Amazing. And what's the ultimate aim then? Is it to obviously to see sort of less, gender bias in terms of hiring and pay and things like that, or is there a sort of a higher agenda, for this?
It is educating everywhere on the globe about how to integrate and how to reach an equality. We are far away from this, and in many cases, I'm not only talking about women in a special position. I'm really talking about everywhere where we talk about equality. That's a long way. We have to start somewhere, and it's really great initiatives out there that are happening, and we're educating. We are offering talks, discussions, presentations, workshops. We are offering to organizations to initiate a discussion and how can we support there. It's a voluntary organization, so everyone in our who is a member, and just thinking about if someone listens here and wants to become a member of our wing, they're very, very welcome.
Yeah, I'd say this you'd be hitting a lot of a lot of your target speakers and people who
Indeed.
could definitely
Yeah,
become advocates.
absolutely. So it's voluntary. We don't earn money. We don't want money to be a member. So it's everyone gives what they can, what they want, what they're willing to. So my position here is supporting the country chair in the UAE as an advisory board member. So a lot of wisdom, hopefully, is there coming from me to her.
And what about here in the UAE? You know, in terms of C-suite percentages of women, you know, what do you find it's higher here, or is it sort of comparable to other countries?
I think the UAE is doing a lot in this regard. I have to admit, my clients have mostly been outside the UAE, even though I'm living here, and it's very, very interesting. I'm working a lot. Have been working a lot in Japan. I have been working in Saudi Arabia, where Saudi Arabia is coming as well. So the UAE is already a little bit further. And I think they're doing a good job, and it's very important to them. Again, they need support, and I think they're open to have that support as well.
Yeah, Saudi is coming along leaps and bounds, isn't it? I mean, it's a far cry from 10 years ago. It would have been a very, very different story. So it's great to see that it's opening up, and especially for women to be able to participate, in society, that level. So what would be one of your biggest challenges that you've overcome personally, and how did you do it?
Personally, well, probably the biggest or one of the biggest challenges personally was indeed in Chile. Coming there, well, another challenge which I also want to address when leaders think of great things, right? They're checking boxes for having education or they're having training for their people. They also sometimes take people and put them in another position, and that's it. And that happened to me. I was taken out of Germany, or was offered to leave Germany, which I was very happy about. And I chose actually myself Chile. However, the headquarters were in the US. My leadership was in the US. Now I was going to Chile, and the Chileans were not prepared. They were not really informed why I was coming, what I was doing there, what was my job. And I found myself explaining that myself, which is never a good idea, to be honest. So a shout out to all the leaders there. If you change something in your team and you move people around, help everyone to understand why this is happening. Because I was, yeah, I was just coming and I had a contract and that was it. So I needed even to choose or to look for my seat myself, to my office myself. So at
Oh,
the
wow,
first weeks,
gosh,
I
you were
didn't have an
literally,
office
it's like
then.
you're practically parachuted in. It sounds like you were dropped into this
Sounds
completely,
intense.
completely new environment, new culture, new language as well. I mean, what do they speak in Chile? Is
They
Chilean
speak
the
Spanish,
language, or is
and
it Spanish?
Spanish, yeah. And I didn't speak a single word when I came. Now I'm fluent, at least in conversations and normal conversations. But yeah, I didn't speak a single word of Spanish. That was another challenge as well. Even though a few colleagues were speaking English, so that was very helpful. But yeah, I was
Wow,
bombarded with
you were
Spanish
definitely
emails.
just dropped into that situation. So how did you deal with that? What was your strategy? How did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah, so understanding from former positions what was my strength is like really talking to the people and connecting with the people and coordinating. That was my project as well, right? Or my job in the end, coordinating Chile, China, US, and Germany, because we were still a global organization. So connecting with individuals that could help me, and then helping them to understand what we're trying to do, and helping them getting something out of um, working with me. So when you work with me, this is what you get. When you work with me, understanding the customer from Japan, you will get less customer claims. I'm actually there for you. If you work with me and explain to me why is it not possible, or why is it difficult or challenging for you to produce a certain quality, I'm helping you that the customer understands this, so you get less customer complaints. So this is like trying to use people and relationship skills in order to help myself out of this, and also to help everyone else around.
I think this is where your quote comes in. Sorry, Sara, where you said to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. I think that's what you've done through your journey, from what I can hear.
Oh, absolutely. And when you talk about that the world wants you to be someone or something, that is actually how I landed in chemistry, right? I didn't really know what was I? I was 19 when I had to decide. I didn't really know what I want, what is out there, what is that
Who does
I
at
didn't know that
19?
people skills is something to make money with.
How does anyone really know? You know, there are a few people out there who've always known what they wanted to do, but yeah, I think majority. So chemistry. So how did you make that choice then?
How did I make the choice for chemistry?
Yeah,
Simply that was the course at school that I loved and that I was best in at this time. I said, well, okay, then chemistry it is, because I didn't even know about psychology, and I didn't know about organizational psychology and organizational development and all that. I didn't know this, so I didn't have the support at this time. I didn't know where to look for this information, or that it was even out there, to make a choice. And certainly I can tell everyone who is in that position that they want to make a choice after school what to do. There are organizations, I know this now, I didn't know this back then, that help you to make those choices. There are career coaches, for example, that help you understand what are your strengths and what are you good at and what are you really want to do and what is out there. So would I have known back then that you can use people skills to have a job? I probably would have chosen that one at the very beginning. However, I think I was blessed as well to go into this journey first, because it was fun. It was very interesting. And I learned a lot there too. And I learned how chemists are thinking, how engineers are thinking. And when I do all those assessments myself today, I figured out that I'm not a rational thinker. I'm not a very analytical person. I'm really more the people person. But I learned it. It is possible. You can learn just almost everything.
I imagine as well, you know, when you're working with a mixed team of men and women, you know, to say that you have, you know, a chemistry and an engineering background, you know, and the experience that you've had, you know, it does stand you in good stead, because you can show that you do have that analytical. You must be able to do the analytical side, you know, as well as the emotional intelligence aspect of it. So I always, you know, just from my own personal point of view, I always think that it stands in good stead to be able to stand in both worlds. You know, really, I think again, you have a lot more buy-in from people because you've been there, you've been in the same you know, positions, and you understand probably their communication problems better than someone who had never had that experience, you know.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I do think young people going into psychology or anything where there's, you know, it's about people in a way, you're almost better going into a bit later, you know, go and experience other things, you know, don't just stay in one lane, you know, because you never lose anything. No education, no experience is ever lost. You know, you subsume it and you use it, you know, to your advantage. And you've definitely done that. That's, you know, you've had an amazing career. So what's next? What are your ultimate sort of ambitions? Where would you like to be going next?
Well, I want to grow where I am, right? So I just started 5 years ago. That's not a long time. I just started to learn so many new things. And it's a lifelong journey and a lifelong growth. So this is what I knew always, but what I learned in the last 5 years, for sure. I just want to expand that. I want to extend it. I have a very clear niche, which is helping engineering leaders to become better leaders and helping their teams to become more effective. So I really want to grow more into this field. I'm coming from there, but I'm coming now from the other side. I want to grow that impact that I can have. beyond that, I want to travel. So I really want to build that as much as I can online, because the world is going online, and I'm helping also to a little bit apart to make an impact on more um, online opportunities by consulting an AI startup, how they can use their AI for what they are planning to do in AI, for leadership skills as well, for developing leadership skills remotely. So that is that's far away. That's a big thing. But yeah, that's my dream, to really be able to make a bigger impact, and to make a global impact. I'm working most of the times outside of the UAE and outside of Germany. I'm working most of the times in English. So sometimes my German coaches, I throw a few English words in this, but they're used to this already. So yeah, having a global impact really wherever I can, and being myself independent in that as well. That's what's coming for me.
Big things coming. Big things coming. I love the fact that you want to bring AI in. That's fantastic. Now, Mandy, as a PCC certified coach endorsed by the International Coaching Federation, what standards or principles do you find most crucial in your current coaching practice?
Mm-hmm. Oh, here we come back to the curiosity, right? So it's all really about that. For me, it's really to be as non-judgmental as I can. I mean, no one is ever 100% non-judgmental. Let's be clear here. But really trying to calm this judge, if it's an inner judge for myself, for others, for the situation, but calming that down, ignoring that, and putting that aside for now, and saying the client is right in what they feel, in what they perceive. What they perceive is right for them, and there's where we start. I have some client, well, I'm working with engineers, so I have some clients being not at all open to exploring outside of the box, to going into the emotional and more creative work, so that they can broaden their mind and that they can see bigger pictures. They're a little bit not stuck, but they're trapped a little bit in this, and they don't even know yet that it is
They're
worth
trapped
it
in
to
the
get out there.
standards and regulations. That's what they're sat there, the parameters that they've been given. I
Yeah,
imagine
and
it's,
for them that's right. So when they say to me, emotions don't have a space here, then for them that is right at this moment. So I'm not going to tell them, oh no, that's wrong, emotions are important. Well, I will explain them how we are made of emotions, and that we never have no emotion. That's just not happening. And I'm trying to help them understand and help them feel their emotions. However, I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong, because for them in this moment, that's for them right. So for them in this moment, emotions have nothing to say there. And I help them to become curious, because they are working with other people that have emotion, or show emotions. Everyone has that show emotions that they're judging. And sometimes those people are women. Because
surprise,
sometimes
surprise,
women
surprise.
show that even more. So my principle is being curious myself where this is coming from, but also saying, okay, the client is right for themselves, like what they feel is right for them. And really starting there, not trying to convince anyone that they have to go a certain way. And then we're just, in coaching, we always say it's a dance with the client, right? You're dancing along. And that's what we do. And with some clients, it needs 2 sessions to really completely shift. And with some clients, it needs 10. And that's all right.
True. I just love your journey. It's so remarkable. And I want to ask you, what advice would you give women that's aspiring to this leadership role, and especially those that's actually in a male dominant field like engineering? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would advise them to own their position, because they might be judged a lot, but judgment is not about them. You're not judged because you're not okay. You're judged because the other party doesn't know what to do with the difference that you show. So it's about helping the other party understand, and it is not always easy, to see you and see your value. So they're not judging you because you are not good. They're judging you because they have limited beliefs. They might have a fear that they don't even know. And not taking that personal and being curious again, like what's behind what's behind the other party's opinion or whatever they say. Where is it coming from? And maybe even starting a conversation around this, having an approach where you ask questions rather than getting defensive, having a coaching approach. So if you try to understand why the other person gives you this this boundary or has you feeling in a certain way, start to get very curious and understand it's not about you, it's about something that they didn't see yet. I also don't say they're wrong. They're not wrong. No one is wrong in this situation. They don't see it, and you can help them.
I think that I would have loved that advice, when I was starting off as an engineer, many moons ago. I remember having an interview for a summer job, and the guy interviewing me said, we would have taken you on, but I had talked about wanting to travel with. I wanted to join a company that I could travel with. And he said, I would love to have employed you because women work 3 times harder than men for the same position and the same recognition. And I remember being shocked that he said this in the interview, but it stuck. And then I believed it. Then I believed I had to work 3 times harder than my male counterparts to get the same recognition, the same, pay. And because I had the limiting belief, it was actually me that was operating from it. I accepted that. And I think it really put a lot of pressure. And I know a lot of women, do put a lot of pressure on themselves to work harder just to be seen to be as good. And the reality is, I think if you own it, I think that's a very powerful message. Stand in yourself, in your true self, be authentic, be a woman, even if it's a maybe male-dominated environment, but you can still, we bring so much value because we do bring a different way of thinking and a different approach. And as I say, if everyone's thinking the same way, no one's thinking.
And nothing is evolving and developing and being innovated, right?
Yeah.
It's like a smile. It's contagious. If I smile, someone else will smile back. And I think it's the same thing. If you're going to own it, that's going to have a beautiful, positive ripple effect to the people that you're leading. I love it. Really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's actually what I really try to do. It's not maybe always working, and I'm not always remembering it. But if someone, behaves in a way that I don't feel well, and I remember I can do it. Sometimes it's not possible. I smile at them, and I think this is not for me. What you just said is not for me. This is coming from you, and you probably don't even mean it. So smiling sometimes has them pausing as well, and they become nicer.
Yeah,
so that was a very beautiful
example. It can take people aback, can't it? Because people are expecting a confrontation, and a battle. It's like that thing, people say, it's not personal, it's just business. But I always say everything's personal. Everything is personal to a certain extent but it's up to you how personal you make it. Are you going to take it so to heart that you can't cope? And I think having a bit of grit and a bit of toughness across all boards, across both sexes, not just for women, I think is important. And what about the sort of the generation coming up through the ranks? Do you work with many young, sort of graduates, women who are coming into the field, or do you mainly just work with the top leadership or middle leadership?
No, actually, that project in Japan was very, very mixed. It was senior level and mid-level leaders. I worked with a few senior leaders in this organization as well. There were a few women. There were not so many women because it was an engineering field again. But so what I see in the younger generation, when we talk about women, they have the same limited beliefs. They have the same. They're not confident enough. yet, because they also believe what they receive, especially when they are in a male-dominated world. But I think the younger generation in general, like every new generation, is always a little bit more open or a little bit more challenging towards the standards. This is how we change over time. So I did not really see in this specific project, for example, that the impact on women because they're women was so much in the younger generation, because they're more accepting this. They're having other problems. But with regard to the gender equality, it was not so bad or not so strong in the younger generations. It's a little bit more tough in the older generations. And some cultures, of course, have a little bit more still this habit and this tradition and this thinking, and other cultures are a little bit more open as well.
That's amazing. I can actually listen to you all night because it is so insightful, and the value that you're bringing, I love it.
Oh, thank you
I
so
just
much.
think, it's quite incredible to meet someone who has made that transition. And I think I just love the fact that you are bringing your engineering mind, into the coaching world, and where you already had, those people skills and those communication skills anyway, but you're taking it, to a whole other level. So what have been your sort of favorite types of jobs? What are your favorite parts of what you do now?
The favorite part of what I do now is really connecting, is deeply connecting with whoever I work with, and it's even deeper one-on-one. So when I have teams and groups, I'm still very connected. The bigger the group, the more difficult it is, but sometimes you need a second coach or trainer in it. But in a one-on-one, even through the screen, there's sometimes a really, really deep connection. And I love this because once we establish this, I can challenge people. I can challenge their beliefs, I can challenge their thoughts, and I can speak as if I was their thoughts. So sometimes I become even a little bit mean, not really mean, but I am playing the voice that they're having. So I had one young lady in this project in Japan as well. She was not confident, like she wasn't showing that confidence, and she was having a lot of limited beliefs. And then after some time, when we connected so much, I could say exactly what she was thinking about herself, but she never told it out loud. And then I said it to her, and it felt like, oof. And then she started laughing because she said, wait, that's stupid. That's not true. So having a deep connection with someone, which I always liked and which I always was good at, that's my favorite part of my job, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. You can see that. You can see, you're a genuinely warm person and very caring. So, that really, really shines through. And, again, it's probably infectious as well, that when people can really see that, you have that compassion, to be able to spread that, within a company. Because at the end of the day, people spend most of their lives, in their work, in their working lives. How many hours of the day are you there? How much of your life are you spending, in your job? And if you don't like it and you're not enjoying it, and it's very stressful, it has such a negative impact then on the rest of your life, your relationships, your children, your health. So obviously that must be something that you see a lot as well, that when people do start to connect, that maybe their stress levels, anxiety levels, start to reduce.
Yes, absolutely. And they make big changes, they make big shifts, right? We're working a lot on those limited beliefs. It's different beliefs for everyone. But that's basically why we get stuck. That's basically why we don't move forward, is some kind of belief that we have sometimes, some kind of thing that we tell ourselves, thoughts that have us feeling very negative, and then we get stuck and we don't move forward. So that's very, very often it's exactly this. So working with people on understanding that, seeing that, and when you see it, knowing how to move around it, to put it aside, to reduce it, that's very helpful. And then seeing that shift, that's probably even better than the connection. Seeing that shift that people make, when they're coming back between sessions. Sometimes it happens in a session, then you see this aha moment, and oh, this is beautiful. But most of the times it's more, it's they're working after a session, and then they're coming back after, let's say, 2 weeks usually, and they tell, oh my God, this is what was happening. I got this project, or I mastered this workshop or this meeting, or I even got a promotion. Or I tried this and it worked, and now this is different. And they come back with their stories, and that is, it's like, yeah, here's the impact I'm making. And
that's really great. And I do think coaching is becoming much more acceptable now. It's seen as something that is actually genuinely very useful, to bring into a company, to have a coach.
And needed.
Oh, sorely needed. I still, yeah.
I had to say that.
It is needed. It is needed, but you have to understand what it is and what you can do with it. So not everyone does this yet, and it's not for everyone at the moment, and that's fine. I think there's still a lot of education to do, like what can you actually reach with it? What can you do with it? How does it work? Some people come and say, okay, so now what are we going to do? And they expect me to have an agenda, and understanding that it's not me having the agenda. It's everything is coming from them. Actually, they do the work. They pay for doing work. But this is how it works. If I can tell them everything, I can tell you how to do things, and you might like it or not, and it doesn't have an impact. When it works here, and when your barriers are broken and breaking, this is how you make this shift, and that's only you can do this. I can help you, and I can find it, and I can identify it with you, and I can point it out. That's usually what is really making the change. I point it out, and then it's like, oh my God, yeah, I never thought about this. But it's still them having to do it, and how that works, there's still education needed.
As we said, you're a catalyst for change, catalyst for chain reactions. Because the whole thing is it's a ripple effect, isn't it? You never really know, how much impact that actually has. It's the butterfly effect. Those small changes can have, absolutely tremendous impacts, across the whole organization, and those people in their personal lives as well. There's nothing better than working somewhere and enjoying where you are, enjoying your job, and getting on with the people that you're working with and making a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm convinced about this. I'm convinced that if you have a good leader, the team can perform better. The team is more effective. Not only because the team is happier. Yes, happiness or like feeling good has a big impact on how you perform. But also you set goals are better, expectations better. They understand it better. You're better aligned, and everything works just better. So start at the top again. We were there before. Start at the top, and then you have that effect down already, and then you still can roll the program out in the other levels, but really start at the top. And as you said, there is definitely a ripple effect.
Indeed.
Janine, listen, we're coming to the top of the hour. I can't believe.
I was about to say, I can't believe. We always end up with, I can't believe. But it's true. The hour goes past so fast. And you know what? It's through these insightful interviews and engaging discussions that really helps us as Women Wise to build that and provide that platform for women to actually learn from one another. And that's exactly what we're doing here tonight. Learn so much about Chile and your journey and your successes. And of course, nothing of it was always easy. And I think that's the nice part, is for people to know that it didn't just happen. You had to work to get to where you are today. And it's also about breaking those barriers. That is really, in a nutshell, our mission. Mandy, you were absolutely fantastic. Shared a lot of gems.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Janine and Sara. It was a pleasure. It was wonderful to talk to you. And yes, the hour was just passing.
Thank you so much, Mandy. It was. I'm sure we'll be meeting in person very soon, and we have a lot in common. So lots
Absolutely.
to discuss. Yeah. So if you have enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to support us, Janine and I would be very grateful to our listeners and our audience if you could buy us a coffee. So not actually buy us a coffee, but give us a donation towards the show. because we're going to be taking it to a whole other level after the summer. And, we're really looking forward to expanding Women Wise to get bigger and better. And, we've just had such an incredible guest tonight with Mandy. So I think there's only one last thing to say, which is stay wise.
And curious.
Stay wise. And curious. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mandy. Thanks.